Okay, everyone, now we're going to hear from a second platinum-sponsored Bridge International. And I just ask you again if we would please just show gratitude to them by piping down so we'd be able to hear their address. That would be great. Thank you very much. Bridge International, please join the stage.
Habari. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I just want to share with you one more story about how many of us together are redefining the African story. Today we've heard about amazing work across the continent that are happening in countries from east to west and north to south. But from what we do in Kenya, I just wanted to share with you some of our hopes as the next generation of African children comes of age and what may be possible in the next 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years as we all keep working for a new future for Africa. So I want to introduce you to a young lady whose name is Rehema Hamisi. She was the 50,000th pupil that we enrolled at Bridge. Before she enrolled with us, she only attended school 1 out of every 3 months. Why? She couldn't afford it. She wasn't learning to read. At the age of 6, she still didn't recognize letters. Now that she's been able to have access to school, she's learning how to read, she's learned the alphabet, and she's starting to be able to pronounce words. She now has a new dream. Before she started school, she thought that she would grow up to work with her grandmother, who currently makes moonshine from coconuts. Now, she wants to be a lawyer. It's a totally different dream than she had, even just 3 months ago. Rehema's dream will be a dream that changes her own life and that of her own family's. But she's not the only child whose dreams change when they have access to education. Last year, I had the opportunity to take 30 of our students to government to meet the Ministry of Education and to be able to perform their own poetry for the ministry. It was fascinating to be able to see the city through these children's eyes. Of these 30 children, not a single one had ever seen a water fountain or a skyscraper in person. No one had ever met an elected government official. So I asked each one of them, if you had the opportunity to speak to the minister, what would you say? These children had 2 messages. They were very simple. The first, which for those of us who live in Kenya is very important right now, is that there be peace at the election. That officials don't stir up violence, and that regardless of who we all may vote for, that our homes will be safe and that our families will not be hurt. The other message, not surprising, you would think an adult might say this, but I was still surprised to hear it from these children, was that they wanted the government to invest in education. And one of these young boys, Charles, said the most eloquent thing I'd ever heard said about the importance of education. When I asked him, well, what would you say to the minister? Why should they invest in education? Why should they invest in you? He said, education is the answer to all questions that remain unanswered. I was flabbergasted. But Charles doesn't want to be a poet, even though I think he should become one. He actually wants to become a pilot, which if you know Kenyan boys, that is the dream of all Kenyan children today. They're very inspired by KQ and want to fly the skies. But I'm inspired by both Charles and by Rehema. But those children, as they define their own stories, they're just 2. But what I'm very hopeful for is as we have 50,000 children, 100,000 children, 1 million children have access to education over the next 10 years, that is what's going to redefine the African story. We have no idea today what it'll be and what stories they're going to decide to write. But their power to do that is what's going to change everything and gives me hope for the future of Africa and that Africa will become the center of innovation and excellence and hope for the rest of the globe. So I hope we'll all join in cheering those children for coming up with their own stories, and look forward to watching that in the decades to come. Thank you.